The stars looked peaceful that night, silent and endless above the colony base. But inside the command dome, tension hung thick as steel. Humans had been invited to the alien summit as junior species, a polite way of saying everyone else thought they were weak. Captain Mira Voss stood near the viewing glass, arms folded, watching strange ships land one by one. Their designs were smooth, almost beautiful, like knives made of light. She had seen enough of the galaxy to know beauty didn't mean kindness. Behind her padded boots came a low growl. A stocky creature, black and white fur bristling, padded up beside her. The soldiers called it Tank. Mira called it her friend. Officially, Tank was a honey badger, one of Earth's small predators brought for research. Unofficially, he was her only comfort in a galaxy full of arrogance. When the alien envoys entered the chamber, the laughter started immediately. A tall, blue-skinned warrior pointed a shimmering hand at Tank. "You bring that thing to a council of civilizations," he sneered. "Do humans fear loneliness so much they keep vermin as pets?" Mira didn't respond. Tank bared his teeth, then went back to cleaning his claws. The laughter spread. The alien leader, Grand Commander Tashar, smiled wide, showing glassy fangs. "Control your creature, human." "We would not want a diplomatic accident." Mira kept her voice calm. "He doesn't start accidents," she said. "He ends them." That answer killed the laughter for a heartbeat. Then Tashar waved his hand. "Enough, we begin the proceedings. Humans will stand at the back." Hours dragged by. The aliens argued over borders, resource rights, and who owned the moons around the rim worlds. Humans were barely mentioned until Tashar declared something new, a universal order forbidding Earth species from colonizing beyond their system. A soft way of saying stay in your cage. Mira's hand tightened on the edge of the table. "That's not an agreement," she said quietly. "That's imprisonment." The room stilled. "Did the pet just speak?" Tashar said mockingly. Her second-in-command whispered, "Captain, please!" But it was too late. The alien guards moved forward. Tank growled again, louder this time, a deep, primal rumble that rolled across the floor. One guard kicked him. That was a mistake. The honey badger moved faster than eyes could follow. A flash of claws, a roar, and the guard's armored leg went out from under him. Before anyone could react, Tank was on his chest, snarling, metal groaning beneath his strength. "Stand down!" Mira shouted, but it was pointless. The alien had already screamed. Energy weapons rose. Mira drew her pistol. Chaos exploded. In seconds, the Peace Summit became a battlefield. Human Marines burst through side doors, dragging civilians to cover. Alien soldiers fired wild shots that burned holes through the walls. Tank darted between blasts, feral and fearless, every muscle built for destruction. Mira fired only to protect, never to kill. But even she felt a spark of grim pride, watching the creature the aliens had mocked tear through their finest warriors. When the smoke cleared, the council chamber was wrecked. Bodies lay scattered, some stunned, some worse. Mira stood in the silence, chest heaving. Grand Commander Tashar glared from the far end of the hall, his armor scorched but intact. His eyes burned with hatred. "You have declared war, human." Mira holstered her weapon. "You started it the moment you laughed." He raised his hand, signaling reinforcements. Hundreds of alien troops flooded the dome. Mira knew this wasn't a fight they could win. "Tank, with me," she ordered. They sprinted toward the exit. Blaster fire rained down, but the honey badger was unstoppable. He slammed through obstacles, snarling at anything that moved. The ground outside shook with explosions from orbiting ships. The unexpected war had begun, not between empires, but between pride and survival. As Mira looked back, she saw Tashar watching from the shattered doorway, vowing something silently. The alien leader's fury was personal now. She whispered to Tank, "They think you're just a pet." Tank snorted, streaked with smoke and blood. His eyes caught the glow of the burning sky. "They'll learn," she said. "Every single one of them." The night was gone. The stars no longer looked peaceful. Mira and her small crew escaped into the dark corridors beneath the alien city. The sirens above wailed through the metal halls, a cold, mechanical scream. Every race on the station was now hunting them. She could taste the recycled air. It smelled like fear and burnt steel. Tank padded beside her, claws scraping the floor, eyes scanning every shadow. The little creature didn't look tired. He never did. "Command won't reach us here," Lieutenant Wren said, panting. "We're cut off." "They'll reach," Mira replied, "if we live long enough to answer." They moved through maintenance tunnels built for machines, not humans. Pipes hissed overhead, dripping strange vapor. Once a patrol of alien guards passed so close that Mira felt their footsteps through the metal floor. Tank crouched, silent, tail twitching. When the aliens were gone, the group pushed forward until they reached an old cargo bay. The lights flickered weakly over containers marked in alien script. Mira climbed onto a crate, trying to think. Her people were stranded in the middle of hostile space, surrounded by an enemy 10 times their size and strength. Tank sniffed one container and growled softly. "What is it?" Mira asked. He clawed the lock apart with casual strength. Inside were glowing energy cells, the kind that powered orbital cannons. "Enough firepower to burn a moon," Wren stared. "Captain, if we detonate these—" "No," Mira interrupted. "We don't start wars by blowing up cities. We finish them by surviving." Tank gave a short, annoyed grunt, like he disagreed. Moments later, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Mira froze. She heard alien voices barking orders in a language of sharp clicks and hisses. "They found us," Wren whispered. Mira knelt beside Tank. "You remember the drill, right? Noise first, bite later." He showed his teeth. Message received. The first alien stepped through the bay door, armor glowing green under the flickering lights. He didn't have time to raise his weapon. Tank hit him like a thunderbolt, sending both into the wall. The rest of the squad opened fire, energy bolts slicing through the air. Mira returned shots with steady hands, picking targets like she was born for it. The fight was short, brutal, and loud. When it ended, the floor was littered with smoking weapons and unconscious bodies. Tank licked a burn mark on his fur and snorted in disgust. Wren leaned against a crate. "Captain, that's the 5th squad we've taken out." "They're not stopping. They're scared," Mira said. "And scared enemies make mistakes." Above them, the ceiling trembled with the hum of engines. Mira knew what that meant. The alien fleet was mobilizing. She looked toward the nearest viewport. The stars outside twisted as warships took position. "The galaxy will see this as human rebellion," Wren said. Mira shook her head. "No, they'll see it as human survival." She touched Tank's shoulder. "Time to move again." They headed deeper underground, following emergency lights that painted the tunnels red. Somewhere far away, explosions boomed through the structure. The entire city was turning into a war zone. When they reached a service lift, Mira activated her wrist comm. Static crackled, then a faint voice broke through, the fleet commander from orbit. "Voss, we read heavy fire. Extraction impossible." "Copy," she said. "We'll make our own way out." Wren stared at her. "You mean steal a ship?" "I mean borrow one without asking." Tank sneezed, which everyone took as agreement. As the lift carried them upward, Mira looked at her reflection in the metal wall. She saw a soldier covered in ash, eyes sharp but tired. Behind her stood the creature the galaxy laughed at. Together, they looked unstoppable. When the doors opened, the platform rose into chaos. The sky was full of smoke and lasers. Alien drones swarmed like angry hornets. Mira pulled her helmet on. "Let's show them what a human pet can do," Tank roared and charged into the light. The station shook like a dying beast as Mira and her crew climbed toward the upper docks. The corridors were chaos, alarms screaming, lights flickering, soldiers running in every direction. Smoke rolled through the air like fog from a bad dream. "Dock 17 ahead," Wren shouted. "There's a patrol guarding it." Mira checked her weapon. "Then we go quiet," Tank growled softly. He hated quiet. The team crept through the shadows, stepping over debris and broken drones. Ahead, the docking bay opened into a massive hangar filled with alien ships, sleek black vessels shaped like blades. Dozens of guards stood near the control tower, shouting orders as the ships prepared for launch. Mira whispered, "If we can get one of those fighters, we can reach orbit." Wren looked doubtful. "And if we can't?" "Then Tank makes a hole," Mira said. He looked at the honey badger, who was already baring his teeth like he understood perfectly. They waited for the right moment. When a cargo ship's engines roared to life, drowning out the noise, Mira gave the signal. Tank bolted first, faster than anyone could believe. He tore into the nearest alien soldier, sending weapons flying. Mira and her crew charged behind him, firing clean, controlled bursts. The hangar exploded into panic. One alien shouted for reinforcements, but his voice ended in a scream as Tank crashed into him. Armor clattering like tin, Ren sprinted toward the control console, smashing his fist on the manual override. "Doors opening!" The giant hangar shields flickered, then parted, revealing the stars beyond, a cold, endless sea of silver light. "Go!" Mira yelled. They raced for the nearest fighter, its engines glowing faint blue. Mira climbed into the cockpit and pulled the hatch shut. Tank jumped in after her, wedging himself into the co-pilot's seat as if he owned it. Ren climbed in last, sealing the ship as laser fire rained down. "You sure you can fly this thing?" he asked. "Not at all," Mira said, grinning. She slammed the throttle. The ship screamed off the deck, ripping through the hangar's force field and shooting into open space. Behind them, the station burned. For a moment, they were free. The stars spread out like diamonds. Mira let herself breathe until a shadow fell across the viewport. A massive alien flagship loomed ahead, dark and terrible, the size of a small continent. Its guns turned toward them like eyes. "Guess who's waiting?" Ren muttered. "Tishar, the alien leader." His voice came through the comm, smooth and venomous. "Captain Voss, brave but foolish. You can't outrun justice." Mira cut the channel. "Justice is overrated," the flagship fired. A beam of white light cut through space. Mira jerked the controls, rolling the ship just in time. The blast skimmed their wing, shaking them like a leaf. "Shields are down!" Ren yelled. "Then don't get hit again!" Mira snapped. Tank stood on the seat, claws digging into the metal, eyes locked on the enemy ship. He growled low, a sound that felt too big for his size. Mira looked at him and smiled grimly. "You want payback, don't you?" He barked once, a sound full of fury and promise. She flipped the fighter around. "Then let's deliver it." They dove back toward the flagship. Enemy interceptors rose from its surface like a storm, hundreds of them. Mira weaved between them, firing bursts of plasma. The little ship moved like lightning, cutting through formation after formation. Tank clawed at the console, accidentally activating secondary weapons. Rockets screamed out, hitting ships left and right. Ren shouted, "He's better at aiming than you." "Don't tell him that," Mira replied. One last interceptor blocked their path. Mira fired straight through it, debris flashing by like sparks. They plunged into the flagship's hangar bay, crashing down hard but alive. The ship's alarms went wild. Mira unstrapped. "Everyone out, now!" Tank leapt to the floor first, already sniffing the air for enemies. Ren stared at the massive steel corridors around them. "We just landed inside the enemy's capital ship. Are we insane?" "Probably," Mira said. "But if we take out their leader, maybe the war ends before it starts." She looked at Tank. His claws clicked softly against the deck as he prowled forward. "Ready for anything. Let's find Tishar," Mira said, "and show him what humanity really keeps as pets." The alien flagship was a city of shadows and metal. Every wall hummed with energy, every hallway twisted like a living creature. Mira and her crew moved through it like ghosts, guided by the low blue lights running along the floor. Tank padded ahead, his claws clicking softly. The smell of oil, ozone, and alien blood filled the air. Somewhere deep inside the ship, the Grand Commander Tishar waited, and Mira could feel his presence like a storm waiting to break. "Commander's deck should be in the central tower," Ren whispered. "But there'll be guards." "There always are," Mira said. "We just move fast enough, they don't matter." They took a side corridor that looked unused. The lights flickered and alien symbols scrolled across the walls like whispers. Mira scanned them. "Maintenance route. This'll take us close." Halfway through, they heard footsteps. A patrol. 5 aliens in dark armor, their weapons glowing faint green. Tank's fur bristled instantly. Mira held up a hand. "Wait." The aliens passed by, then one turned his head, eyes locking on Mira's reflection in the metal wall. "Intruders!" The fight exploded before words could form. Mira dropped the first with a clean shot. Ren ducked behind a conduit, and Tank leapt forward with a roar that echoed like thunder. He hit the lead guard square in the chest, knocking him through a wall panel. Sparks rained down. The last alien tried to retreat, calling for backup, but Tank caught him before the signal finished. The hall fell silent again, broken only by the hum of engines. Ren swallowed hard. "He's not even breathing heavy." "He doesn't," Mira said. "That's what scares them." They pushed deeper into the heart of the ship. The corridors grew wider, cleaner, almost ceremonial. The walls glowed with strange runes, showing the alien empire's victories, battles, conquests, and trophies. But none of those carvings showed failure. None showed fear. Until now. The sound of distant alarms echoed behind them. The ship knew they were here. Finally, they reached a massive door covered in gold and black symbols. Mira touched it. "Command deck," Ren stared. "There's no way we're just walking in." "Who said anything about walking?" Mira said. She nodded to Tank. The honey badger studied the door, then sank his claws in and ripped. Metal shrieked. Sparks flew. The door buckled, split, and crashed inward like paper. Inside the command deck was a cathedral of glass and light. Alien officers stood frozen, staring. At the far end of the hall stood Tashar, tall, calm, armor gleaming like obsidian. "So," he said softly. "The pet returns." Mira stepped forward, weapon ready. "You called us weak. You called him a joke. Let's see you laugh now." Tashar smiled. "I underestimated you, human. That was my mistake. But it ends here." He raised a blade of pure plasma, and his guards surged forward. Mira opened fire. Tank roared and charged. The room exploded into chaos. Energy blasts tore through the air. Tank slammed into a guard, ripping the weapon from his hands and throwing him across the room. Mira rolled, firing 3 perfect shots that cut down 2 more. Ren covered the side flank, ducking behind consoles. Tashar moved like a ghost, fast, graceful, deadly. His blade sliced through a column, molten metal spraying everywhere. He closed in on Mira, eyes burning bright. "You think your animal can save you?" he hissed. Mira smiled coldly. "He's not saving me. He's saving you from me." Tank hit him from behind. The commander's armor cracked under the impact, sending him sprawling. He rose instantly, slashing wildly. The honey badger dodged, snarling, claws tearing chunks from the floor. The fight became a blur, man and beast against alien power. Sparks, light, and sound mixed into chaos. Then an explosion rocked the deck. One of the consoles overloaded, flames erupting up the wall. The ceiling started to collapse. Mira grabbed Ren by the arm. "Get to the escape bay!" "What about you?" Ren shouted. She looked back at Tank, who stood between her and Tashar, still fighting, still furious. "We're right behind you." Tashar lunged again, and Tank met him with a roar that seemed to shake the ship itself. The two vanished into the smoke. Mira ran toward the blast doors, the floor trembling under her boots. Behind her, she heard the sound of claws, metal, and rage. She didn't know who would walk out of that fire. But she knew one thing. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would never forget the day the aliens stopped laughing. Smoke filled the command deck. The air tasted like fire and metal. Mira coughed hard, stumbling through the haze. Every system around her screamed alarms. Red light pulsed from the ceiling, flashing over wrecked consoles and fallen soldiers. She could barely see a few meters ahead. "Tank!" she shouted. Her voice disappeared under the roar of burning fuel. Somewhere in the smoke came a low growl. Alive! She ran toward it, kicking through debris. A figure emerged, Tank, limping slightly, fur singed but eyes bright as ever. Behind him, Grand Commander Tashar dragged himself upright. Armor torn, half his mask melted away. "You creatures," he rasped. "You think this changes anything?" "Humanity is nothing." Mira steadied her weapon. "Then why are you bleeding?" He laughed weakly. "You are parasites." "Brave, perhaps, but doomed." Tank took a step forward, claws clicking. Mira saw the truth in Tashar's eyes. He wasn't fighting for an empire anymore. He was fighting for his pride. He lunged, faster than she expected, blade flashing toward her chest. Tank moved first. The honey badger slammed into him, claws raking across alien armor, tearing through cables and plates. Tashar screamed, electricity arcing from his blade. Both crashed against a shattered console. Mira's vision blurred from the heat. She raised her gun but couldn't fire. The two were locked too close, a blur of fury and sparks. Then Tashar shoved Tank away, grabbing a power conduit and ripping it free. Energy crackled in his hand like lightning. "Let's see how your beast handles this." He thrust the cable forward. The current hit Tank full force, lighting up the deck with blinding blue. The sound was like thunder breaking open. Mira screamed, firing wildly, blasting the cable apart. Tank fell motionless. Smoke rose from his fur. For a moment, everything went silent. Tashar staggered, burned and trembling. "Weak!" he hissed. Mira dropped her weapon and charged. She hit him with everything she had, rage, grief, strength. They crashed into a viewport, glass fracturing under the impact. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. He tried to grab her, but she drove her knee into his chest, then slammed her fist into his helmet again and again. "You should have stayed laughing," she shouted. The viewport cracked wider. Alarms howled as air began to leak. Tashar shoved her back with a final roar, but stumbled, bleeding, slipping toward the growing tear in the glass. And then Tank moved. He wasn't dead, just angry. The creature rose from the floor like something ancient and unstoppable. With a guttural roar, he lunged, biting down on Tashar's arm and driving him straight through the broken glass. The alien leader vanished into the cold dark of space. Mira froze, chest heaving, hair whipping in the sudden wind. Tank crouched by the cracked viewport, his eyes reflecting the stars. She reached him carefully. "You're insane," she said softly. "But you did it." He gave a low grunt, half growl, half sigh. His fur still smoked, but his eyes were calm now. Ren's voice came through her comm, crackling with static. "Captain, we've got a shuttle. The ship's tearing apart. You have to move." Mira looked around the ruined deck. The honey badger had already started limping toward the exit, as if he owned the place. "Yeah," she muttered. "Let's go before they name this wreck after us." They ran through the collapsing corridors, fire lighting the path behind them. Explosions chased their footsteps, one after another, until they burst into the hangar and dove into the waiting shuttle. The engines screamed to life. The alien flagship split apart behind them, pieces falling into the black like dying stars. Mira watched it from the cockpit, her reflection flickering in the glass. "One empire just learned what humanity really is," she said quietly. Tank climbed onto the co-pilot seat again, curling up like he'd done nothing unusual. "Yeah," she said. "You earned a nap." Outside, the stars were no longer silent. They watched as humanity's smallest warrior carried the biggest victory in the galaxy. The shuttle drifted through the wreckage of the alien fleet. Broken ships spun slowly, glowing like dying stars. The war that had begun as a joke was now carved into history. Mira sat in the cockpit, hands steady on the controls. Her reflection in the viewport looked older, smoke-stained, and tired. Tank snored beside her. A patch of fur burned away, claws twitching as if still fighting in his dreams. Ren leaned forward from the back. "Command just received our signal. They're sending recovery teams." "About time," Mira said. I was starting to enjoy the silence. Outside, the human rescue ships arrived, their lights sweeping across the wreckage. Mira guided the shuttle toward the largest carrier. The landing bay opened like a welcoming hand. As they touched down, medics and engineers rushed forward, cheering when they saw her step out alive. But all eyes went to the creature at her side. Tank jumped down, shook himself once, and trotted along as if he owned the place. The soldiers backed away instinctively. "That's him," one whispered. "The alien killer." Mira frowned. "He's not a killer. He's a survivor." Still, she couldn't deny what Tank had become. A symbol. Word of their escape had already spread across every channel. The human captain and her pet, who destroyed a flagship and killed the Grand Commander. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy wasn't laughing at humans. They were listening. Later, Mira stood in the observation deck, watching the alien debris fade into the distance. The stars looked peaceful again, but not innocent. She placed her hand on the glass. "You did good, Tank." He sat beside her, silent, eyes half closed. "They'll make stories about this," she said. "They'll call you a monster or a hero? Maybe both." Tank blinked lazily, then yawned, showing teeth sharp enough to frighten gods. Mira smiled. "Yeah, both suits you." A message came through her comm, the Earth Council demanding a full report. She ignored it for a moment. Her gaze stayed fixed on the stars. Somewhere out there, entire species were rethinking everything they believed about humans. Courage didn't always come in armor. Sometimes it came in fur and fury. Tank turned to her, pressing his head against her leg. She rested a hand on his neck. For a moment there was peace, not the fragile kind governments talked about, but the kind earned through fire. Ren approached quietly. "Command says they want to honor him, a medal, maybe even a statue." Mira smirked. "Good luck keeping him still for that." They all laughed. Tired, shaky, real laughter. The kind that only comes after surviving something impossible. As the ship turned toward home, the stars stretched into lines of light. The galaxy watched in silence, remembering the night a woman and her small Earth creature changed everything. No one would ever again call humanity weak. No one would ever again laugh at what they didn't understand. And somewhere deep in the hum of the engines, the honey badger growled softly. A reminder that peace was only safe because monsters like him existed to defend it.